Hello, hello. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. We have a fun visitor. Some of you guessed the guest speaker trivia that we had a couple weeks ago, so we'll go over that again. But we're excited to have a friend from Hail Title on here, and we'll let you know who it is later if you don't already know. He'll come on soon. I'm Kristen Rabell.
I'm Rebecca Johnson.
Yay, the Rabell Realty Group podcast. Again, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please post them. We will answer them when they come up. Not all of your questions will be posted, but we'll get them after. So don't be shy. Get some questions up there. Also, want to say Happy Mother's Day, a little belated, but to all the mothers out there, we wouldn't be here without you, literally. But we love you. And then also thank you to our nurses.
Yep, it's Nurses Week. Yep,
yeah.
Nurse Appreciation Week. So thank a nurse if you know them.
Yay, love our nurses. So
we probably wouldn't be here without the nurses
right?
either. So
they're wonderful. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead with our Monday Market Moment, and then we'll get on with our guest today.
all right, let's take a look and see what's happening in North Central Florida. We will start down in the Hillsborough area. So this is looking at the month of May so far, which is the 9th day of the month, and we look in the morning, so it doesn't really count all the weekend stuff. So, all right. So for active in Hillsborough, you have 285 homes or properties that have come on since the 1st of May. Let's see. Then you have 330 pended and 216 closed.
Looking a little bit up from April, but still really low.
Still need inventory.
I mean, everything we're reading is that inventory is up. So you can see there's active inventory. There's just not as many closed. But we talked about it this morning on our huddle. They're not closing as fast.
Right.
So it's not 3 to 8 days closing. It's
I feel cursed by that as well.
2 or 3 weeks,
forever.
which is not really forever, but
Feels
it's
like
definitely more. It takes longer than it has been the past a year and a half or so. So
yeah,
and we'll talk about that with Hail Title as well if they're seeing the same thing.
All right. So Ocala and Marion County, you've got 150 active properties since the start of the month, with 168 pended and 116 closed.
Wow, these numbers are way closer than the Tampa differences.
And then up in Gainesville, we have 81 that have come on the market with 112 pended and 70 closed. So still pretty strong. If you think about it, it's really only 6 days.
We are feeling the pinch with the only 81 active.
Yes. We're still seeing people, I'm not going to say fighting over it, but you're still seeing multiple offer situations. You're still seeing people pay pretty close to list price. I mean, I went on a couple of listing appointments, and every neighborhood was still in that 98.9% range of list to sell ratio.
Definitely seeing that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I know some price points we've talked about, you're not having as much competition, but it's still quite competitive out there, just because there's not a lot to choose from. All right, and then St. Augustine Beach area, you've got 55 active, 13
total
pended,
from the whole year.
right, in total that are still on the market, 13 pended and 8 closed so far for the month of May. So things are definitely competitive in all the markets.
But we are seeing houses come on. We do have a little bit more inventory than we did. April was really low, so just anything higher than April is better. And we're still lower than last year, and obviously even lower than from 2 years ago. So,
and despite the interest rates going up, we're still seeing people out there buying. I mean, I have to say the interest rates are basically a little lower still from when we started in 2006, if you think about it.
But it's
they're
still
in the high to mid fives.
It's affecting some of the buyers. Again, they're not jumping as fast, and they're seeing the difference in price that they have to pay. So they're not jumping out as much. And you're not seeing, at least not in Gainesville, such a wide difference from list to closed. I mean, there was a while there where it was way over list, so it's not as high as before. And we're also noticing in certain price ranges, 350 up, we're not seeing quite as many offers again that first day where it's 20 to 25 offers or more. Now we're seeing more like Oh yeah, a good point. We're seeing more like maybe 2 or 3 to 5, but it takes a couple of days rather than that first weekend. And what Jackie just said, because we were talking on the huddle this morning, which is a phone call between all of our agents talking about the current market. But I'm seeing that too. They go pended and they're back on the market. So some of these might be,
That's
reactivated.
True. We're working 3 times as hard this year because we have to sell the same home 3 times typically. So.
And I think what we've noticed is when they're going back on, somebody's felt like they've overpaid. A lot has come up, usually with these insurance issues that we've talked about, the roof, the AC, things like that. And so they're just saying, forget it, we'll take it off the market, put it back on. Sometimes they fix it, sometimes they don't. And they can fairly easily, unlike before COVID, before all of this, they can get another offer, pretty soon after, and sometimes sell for higher and not having to do anything. So that's our local market update.
There you go.
All right. Well, if you have any more comments or questions, please post them and we'll get them up here and talk to you about them. So let's go ahead and bring on our guest, Dan Montu from Hale Title Company. Thank you for coming today, Dan. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so he's our Georgia Bulldog fan, one of the few. And there's a lot in Florida. There's a lot in Gainesville. And then also, you were a runner for a really long time. I'm sure you still run just to keep up with it, but you were actually running marathons and short races a lot. For quite a while.
High school, then my wife and I both were scholarship in college, so that's kind of where we sort of just kept it going on and off since those years. And then I came back about 11 years ago and out of retirement and for one last hurrah and did pretty well. But now I'm just got
to keep those knees, right?
I've been very blessed to not have the problems with that a lot of people have
knees
had.
And hips problems that a lot of runners have.
But maybe because I took some time off over the years to do other things, so I haven't just done it for 40 plus years nonstop. But now I'm really just trying to stay fit.
So do you stay fit in the same way, or like you don't really run as much as you did, but you swim now?
Do some swimming, do some biking, little thing trying to do a fundraiser June 4th, riding bike to Cedar Key.
Oh, fun.
To raise a little money for Peaceful Paths. And then I do some running a little bit, but maybe 3 or 4 miles. I'm not doing anything intense. I have nothing left to prove.
You've won all the ribbons and all the medals, right? You've done it all.
I've got all I need.
There you go. Well, good. Well, we always thought it was pretty impressive that you did that. So it was always fun to see your medal board at the office.
Yeah, I had some unfinished business, so I got a couple things later in life and happy and content. I hate using the word content.
So you own Hale Title, which, by the way, is not located in Hale Plantation.
That's slightly confusing.
Right. That's where it originated in, but
don't
you have since
go to
moved.
Hale to get to us.
Luckily, all of your emails say that, so you can tell who's not reading when they go, hey, I'm in Hale looking for you.
Yeah, if we could get people to read again, people read the email, but get the end. They don't care who sent them the email, so nobody reads. We've tried to figure out where the best way to. I wish we could get our email formatted to put that at the top.
Right.
But it's no different than we email in our email for people to if you want money wired, get your wire routing number, and they
don't
come
read
in
that
and
either.
they don't read it, and they still bring their check and say that nobody talked to them about it. And you're like, well, it's there, but it is what it is. So.
All right. So how long have you owned Hale Title?
Bought them in 2009, and they threw Libby in. So.
And they threw Libby in. Oh, you got Libby as a prize.
Yeah. So it's 13 years this year. So crazy. Nice. It's been a great. It's funny to go back and look at the numbers in 2009 when the market was crashing, and I think they closed 119 in all of 2009, and I remember trying to put a budget together for. Getting a loan, and they're like, what do you think? You think we can get 20 a month? And I think 2 years ago or last year, we did 840 2 years ago and 760 something last year. So it's kind of pretty amazing story.
Yeah, there you go. Going from 119 to
Yeah.
the 7 and 800s. It's pretty amazing.
But yeah, we've had always had a great staff of people, and like I said, we tried to bring something different to the business.
Business, all
with
right.
customer service and having a lot of fun.
Well, let's talk a little bit first about title insurance. What
Okay.
is title insurance, and why is it so important to buyers, especially?
Well, title insurance, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're the necessary evil, but you don't want it until and you're not glad you have it until you need it. And I do anywhere from 60 to 100 title commitments a month, and there's always a handful that come back where there are title problems. And, title insurance can insure all kinds of defects from the past, legal descriptions, missing witnesses and notaries. Somebody who says that they were an heir to the property and didn't get it, you missed somebody in a probate, or it could be so many different things. And a lot of times just by having the policy, which is why we stress for people to hang on to that policy for as long as they own it, and I'm really harp on that because a lot of people, nobody really explains to them the importance of that policy, and then they go to sell their house down the road and there's a problem, and they have no idea what they did to their policy. They thought it was junk mail. Nobody told them how important it is. They think it was recorded in the public records, and it's not. And now we have a problem. And a lot of times we can get their policy and send it to our underwriter, and we can close their transaction without having to do anything. But there are some that are more serious, and that's when you need that title policy, because you have to file a claim, and it could take a while to fix
Is that usually on the larger land or the properties that have been changed from hand to hand more often, or is it just could be anything?
It's a variety of issues. I mean, we had one from 1989. It had closed through 3 attorneys and 2 title companies, and then we proof all of our legals, and we found an error, and they had taken title. The last owner taken title via quitclaim deed, so there was no title insurance, and it was 25 acres, and
Right.
they spent $30,000 in legal fees to get a new
Correct
survey and do what we call a quiet title suit.
Right.
Others, if there's an old mortgage that wasn't satisfied, if they have their policy issued by us or another title company, and that mortgage was not shown as exception, then we can rely on that policy to say that it was probably paid off. The lender just never satisfy it, but the treaty allows us to insure over it, so we can put a copy in our file and we can close your deal and not. And then what I do is I give the new owner a copy of the existing policy and a new policy, and tell them to hang on to it.
So
Let's talk about that really quick. So at closing, everybody gets a folder with documents. I think yours are white and say Hail Title on them.
We use 2 different underwriters, and they give us folders, one First American, one Fidelity, and then we put the Hail Title sticker on it, and depending on who the underwriter is, and we give that to them at closing with.
And all
with
of that
copies.
is super helpful for them, and they should keep it for how long?
Well, they don't get the policy at the
Right.
closing. So I have an extensive, if you've been to my closing, I have an extensive speech, and it's the last thing I talk about is they're getting the deed and the title policy, and it's that portion. And that's what's unfortunate. A lot of people, we're not the only one that don't issue the policies, probably
Immediately.
90% of the people. And so they get a copy of everything they signed, but the
not
one
the
thing they
actual.
don't get is the recorded deed and the title policy. Those usually get sent to you later by the attorney or title company, and you get those again roughly around 6 weeks, give or take. And so I even give them a sheet of paper typed out that it explains what's going to happen in 6 weeks, and it's highlighted, and we really talk about that because I want them to understand the importance of that document.
And what they need to do is when they get that, receive that in the mail, they need to put that in that file that you've given them and hold on to that.
There or just a safe place. I
Sure.
tell people to go buy one of those, fire safe boxes that they keep, or if you want to put it in your safe deposit box if you still have one. But with everything being electronic, we've even gone away. We're probably emailing 95% of ours. So
wow.
I give them another sheet of paper that explains, and I go over. I'll just give it to them, say, hey, read this later, and I explain to them. When we do the deed confirmation, they instruct us if they want it via email or mail. If they want to email, where do you want to email? If you want it mailed, where do you want it mailed? And they sign off on that. And then when I do sign off on the title policies a few weeks later, we go through there, we keep that deed confirmation, and says where to send it. And then we send it to them. We scan it all into a PDF, send them email. We even get ask for a red receipt when we send it to them, and then we tell them to print out a hard copy. Again, the deeds are done electronically, so you don't need an original
it's
deed
already
anymore.
on file.
So we tell them to print out a copy and then drop and drag the PDF. We send them to a backup drive, so
Now,
they always have a permanent.
Carrie here, she's an insurance agent. If you don't know Carrie Ward, she says, yeah, I figured you did. If we didn't keep it, can they be reissued? And you're sort of talking about if it's in your email.
It's hard. We've, as everybody went to scanning probably in the last 7 to 10 years, I'm not sure. I think we started doing it about 6 or 7 years ago. But some of our software, where we issued the policies in our software, I still have the license, user license, where if somebody calls me and says, hey, do you have my old policy? And I can open up, depending on, we're on our 3rd or 4th software now, so I have to go.
We understand
that.
What software were we on at that time? But then more recently, in the last 6 or 7 years, a lot of times we can have those available in our system where we've scanned and saved them, and we can reproduce it. But you call a lot of places and they don't have them, or they don't know where they went them, and we may have scanned them and may not have gotten saved properly too. So
it also doesn't hurt if you've used you to purchase, like you said, in the last 7 years, because that's what you're doing. You can go back and list or sell with you. That's the seller.
Right.
And you might have it on file.
Yeah, you qualify. And we're trying to do the same thing with surveys, but the oversized surveys are hard for us to scan and reproduce. So we don't have all of them. And so we would send them off, and if it's an oversized survey, it's just there's nothing we can do about it.
So
we
you
try
just have to hold on to that.
Yeah,
right?
we try to take them somewhere and get them scanned to us. A lot of your surveyors send you an email, but the problem is too, even the ones that they send you, they're not they don't have a signature on them. Right. Then you get the originals in the mail.
Yep.
But a lot of surveyors are now going to electronically signing them too. So this whole raised seal thing.
Kind of becoming a moot point.
You don't need to worry about that.
Right.
If somebody says they need a raised seal, it's kind of old school.
Now, what's the difference of getting a title policy with cash versus any loans?
Not a lot. I mean, if you're buying a house, you're going to get a title insurance policy based on what you paid. Mm-hmm. And that's going to, like I said, it's going to insure any old mortgages that haven't been satisfied. My favorite, an ex-wife showed up and said her ex-husband sold the house without her signing off on it. He lied and said it wasn't the homestead property. And she came back and I said, yeah, it was.
So you have that title policy showing that
again,
safe from it.
And what happens is that if a seller signs our title affidavit at closing, and let's just say he went out and borrowed money on the house 2 days before closing and didn't disclose it to us. Or we had one a few years ago. He got sued by the IRS for $230,000 IRS lien the day before closing.
Woo.
And thankfully the IRS isn't smart and they released it, but that could have turned into a but what would happen is the title insurance policy would have paid the claim, and then they go after the person who signed that affidavit for basically committing fraud. So that's the owner's policy, so it protects you for all those things, which is why you need to hang on to that, because again, it's not in the public records. And I tell everybody there's thousands of companies not around today that were around 15 years ago for the last bust. And and as I approach the age of 60 and my retirement window, gets closer, I always joke and say, I'm not going to be around doing this one day. And, if Hale Title's not around one day, I truly expect them to be around for the people behind me. But still, again, anything can happen. And at that point, how do you get a copy of your policy?
Sure. So hold on to it. Right. Hold on to it. And then when you sell that property, you can technically release it or get rid of it, or
you can
not have it anymore.
There's once you sell
lose track of it.
Once you sell, there's no need for you to hang on to it. Really,
not
You've
even
sold
legal
and
needs
closed.
in case somebody comes back after you.
You might need the settlement statement more, but I mean, again, providing it to the title company or attorney, so they have a copy when they do the searches, and then they can have a copy in the file. And like I said, if let's just say, for instance, you're selling your house and you paid off your mortgage at the last place you went to, and now you're coming back and I call you up and say, hey, this mortgage from when you bought the house 10 years ago never got satisfied. Oh, and this lender's not around anymore. Who knows? Or they've been bought and sold. I'm going to say, do you have your policy from when you bought it? And if you send me your owner's policy and it shows that, that mortgage is not an exception, meaning you didn't take title subject to that mortgage, then I can put a copy of that in our file and I can close your transaction. And I can also give the buyer a copy of that along with their new title policy when we issue it, so they'll have a paper trail to show that.
Very nice. Well, we have gone over our break, so let's take a break real quick. We'll come back and talk about what Hale Title can do for you and also maybe some fun stories.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Rabell with Rabell Realty Group. Today we're going to talk about some of the myths of real estate and becoming a realtor.
Myth number 1, flexibility with your schedule. One of the biggest things that we encounter are people assuming that their schedule is super flexible in real estate, which is true to a certain point. You do have a lot of flexibility as long as you're good at time blocking and structuring a day, but you don't in terms that you do have to work during a lot of business hours because you're dealing with lenders and title agents, people's jobs and schedules as well. So you're kind of trying to find a balance between getting up in the morning and working and squeezing into your day all the things that you need to get done, plus having that work-family life balance.
Another myth is that leads are free, and they're not actually free. You're either paying for them through your commission, splitting it with your broker, or you're paying for it by buying them through Zillow or HomeSnap or any other third-party vendors. So the best leads that are free are your sphere of influence.
Real estate myth number 3 is that you're going to get paid really quick. The truth is you'll probably be in the industry 3 to 6 months before you ever see any money.
If you're looking for more real estate advice or myths about being a realtor, come follow us and watch us on Facebook Live and YouTube, 2 o'clock every Monday. Or you can find us at rebellpodcast.com.
All right. Thank you for coming back. We are back here on the Rabell podcast with Dan Montu from Hale Title. So talking a little bit about title insurance, which is the necessary evil, as you say.
Yes.
And we actually, during the break, we were kind of talking about numbers from March to April and how you had more closings in March than you did April, which our numbers from last week showed. So we'll be interested to hear how many you do at the end of May, since you noticed our numbers from 9 days.
It's been interesting. Yeah, it's been interesting since late last year. We really saw a significant drop in number of orders coming in late last year, and then we saw a nice spike. But January numbers weren't great. February's were better, and then March was really good. But then again, we saw another. We saw another. We're seeing really more of a roller coaster. Right. Normally, there's a more steady increase or decrease, and now the numbers are all over the place, and that's just with purchases. Refinances are sort of gravy for us. I mean, we get a lot. Are you
still seeing them even
with the
rate increase?
There's. It's funny. No matter what rates have done, I go back. I loaned money out 16.5% back in 1989. So
see, that's what we're saying.
And my first mortgage in '88 was a monthly adjustable. At 11, at 11 and a half.
We don't want to go back to those days.
So we're spoiled.
Right.
With 5, oh my God, we're gouging everybody at 5-6% now. But anyway, which is not really bad overall. But
prices are different.
Yeah.
Than they were in the 80s. Though.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing is that now that house in the 80s that was 160.
My mom got one for like
is now like 450, 550.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. It's But yeah, as long as, there's a lot of refinances now because some people are choosing to renovate their home, so they're pulling cash out. So they're going to refinance. And then, of course, some people continue so the ever-ending cycle of getting into debt, then they need to consolidate their debt. Right. And then they go back. And then, of course, there's always divorce situations. And,
other situations
those kind of situations that cause So there's always a certain amount of business that's always going to be refinances. But, our lifeblood long-term is to rely on people purchasing, and we specialize in existing home sales, condo.
That's weird. We do too.
Yeah, we don't really.
And we sustain on people buying homes
Right.
too.
We don't even get the refinance.
Doesn't mean anything
Well,
to us.
obviously to you for sure, but we don't do a lot of new construction. I mean, we don't really get involved in that a lot. And
A lot of the attorneys have that. not
most of your builders use their attorneys, and they use them for a reason. So I've done a lot of research, and I can spend a lot of time and a lot of money marketing. But again, a lot of these builders just aren't going to shift to you.
your bread and butter kind of is probably realtors, right? Bringing you more business, repeat business.
That's where they have that kick and party every year.
That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the appreciation party.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So tell us how, other than working with new construction, how you're different from other companies in town for your resales.
Well, again, my biggest complaint over the years was that the title companies, or realtors are always having to, and lenders are always having to track down the closing agent to get information. So we try to be proactive. So when we get the files, we're trying to make contact immediately. We're trying to get information on your buyers and your sellers, and get the commitments out to people, and pinpointing issues earlier, gathering information, and letting people know what's going on. And like I said, when I was in the lending business, I would get frustrated with,
The title company. Yeah. So you have
people say, we haven't heard, where are we closing?
Right.
They would actually show up at my office as a lender, and I go, why are you here? So, well,
those back in
isn't
the
this
day.
where we're supposed to go for the closing? And
that's what's interesting for you. You've been on the lender side when you've seen title companies really not be proactive or involved at all until the last minute.
Right.
And now you've been doing this for 13, 16 years, and you've seen this side of it.
Our whole customer service concept is to take a lot of my experiences and when I was a lender, and try to come in and change the aspect of the service aspect of this, because that's really it. And, the rates are regulated. I can't charge. The difference between me and another title company in town could be a couple $100. So what can we do to differentiate ourselves from everybody else? And it's got to be by gathering information and making it a great experience for people.
And for the realtors also to bring it back. Now, in our area, people don't know that they're listening, the seller pays for the title policy for the buyer. Now, that's
Correct.
not nationwide. That's not even Florida-wide. That's just certain parts of the nation, certain parts of states. And our state does that. Now, have you seen with these competitive buyers, how many of them are actually picking the title company? Are you noticing that? Because then they'll pay their own fees.
I've seen a little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we actually just closed one last week where the buyer not only paid for the title charges, but they paid an additional $2,000 in seller's closing costs.
Listen, we had one where I think I had 21 offers on our listing.
I was gonna say, I know who brought the buyer.
I don't know who that buyer was, but or who that
realtor was.
What on mine, they were
yours.
paying the buyer's title fee, right? So, and they were paying both buyer and seller commission.
Wow.
And they did not win. I thought immediately when I saw that offer, they'd have it in the bag, but they didn't, because someone else came with a higher cash offer, and the net to the seller was even higher than paying all of those fees.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but it is a good way to win, is if you can pay those fees as a buyer.
It's a little concerning because of what you're seeing buyers do. There's just no supply out there, And you guys are like me, guys. Where's it going to end? What's going to happen? I think everybody's got a little bit of nervousness about them because of, again, the lack of inventory and the crazy prices. And it's tough. I've talked to a lot of lenders. It's very tough. A lot of lenders are losing their deals.
Yes.
They can't get their buyers to get a contract because the cash is coming in.
That's true.
Our condo didn't even go on the market, but my son, he's got a condo, and I just happened to mention it to a realtor a couple weeks ago and said, my son's wanting to sell his condo, and he called me up and said, hey, you still interested? I said, I guess. And they brought us an offer, and he took her to another condo in the same place, and there were 6 realtors and 6 buyers, and he said, look, they're willing to give it to you for X. My son thought it was important to sell it to someone who was going to live there.
Yep.
He didn't want to sell it to an investor, even though he could put more money in their pocket. But that being said, we said, look, if for some reason the inspection goes back bad or you can't get the loan, then it'll be whatever it is. But there's some things that need to be done. We wanted to give her an equity position where she could buy a house and then put some money into it and fix it up and still have equity, instead of some people are buying these houses and they need to put work into them on top of that. So
They're willing to do it.
So anyway, I was pretty impressed with my son just being willing to make that concession. So, but
Good for him, because I could tell you I would have probably thrown that thing on the market, let the feeding war go.
I mean, that's the same, deal that I'm talking about, the transaction. At first they said, we don't want any investors. We want a buyer to come in. But truthfully, most of the buyers were the typical investor of Gainesville, which is the parent coming in to purchase for their child, so that they could help win the deal. Now, most of them, the kids could perform, but in order to actually get the offer, I mean, we had 5 offers, I think, 50,000 over, 40,000 over. So
yeah, I mean, just like we had in your meeting a couple weeks ago, you were talking about how, buyers have enough money to put down, and that's kind of what our scenario is. She has more money to put down, but she's trying to put less down, but she was worried about a bidding war and some other things going on there. So
everybody's worried about those bidding wars right now.
So I don't, don't know what's.
Well, you too can decide on, selling to someone who's not an investor, but you do have to be willing to take that, that hit, because investors can come in and pay more.
Well,
for him,
we weren't looking a gift horse in the mouth with this. I mean, he's probably going to come out with twice as much money to go towards his student debt than he thought. And I said,
you're still in a win-win situation in this market. Exactly. All right. Well, we're almost done. You can either give us a fun little tidbit about, crazy situation at Hale, or help us send off to the next one.
Oh, well, I'll tell the quick one that we were talking about earlier, but, we run into a lot of fun things that happen and weird things that happen. And so one of them was when you're doing a loan, a lady had 4 pages of signature affidavits, and her new husband noticed an extra name that he had not seen before. And he questioned it, and he found out at the closing he was husband number 4, not husband number 3. And so it was a rather awkward moment.
Right.
Uncomfortable for her.
She just forgot. She just forgot that first one, maybe.
Forgot about going to Vegas that one night.
Well, poor guy, but if she had 2 before him, why not 3?
I know. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, splitting hairs at this point, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, it would have been fun riding home in the back seat listening to that conversation.
At least they had something to talk about over dinner that night, Nothing boring.
Well, I was looking at the bright side thinking it's
going to come back soon.
It's going to be a closing in about 90 days. So.
Yeah, that realtor was loving that too.
Well, yeah.
All right, Dan, that was a funny story. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for coming on here on our podcast. We appreciate you, and hope to send you some more business and see you thriving in this market.
I appreciate the opportunity, and just always fun with you guys. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you. And if you have any other questions and you're watching this after the fact, go ahead and, throw in your questions and we'll get them answered, whether, having Dan answer them, or Libby, or the 2 of us, if we can help without them. So we thank you for watching, whether live or after the fact. And again, thank Dan for coming on here. And next week we have Janine. So let's go ahead the slide.
It's over on the side.
Yep. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Janine Gray from Magnolia Lane. We'll talk a little bit about marketing. She mostly does photography, but for families and everything, but how it can help with marketing homes and for other realtors, and gifts you can give. So we're excited to have her on. And then, we got a laugh from Susan. I'm not really sure what the laugh is.
Probably because I'm confused. I was looking at both screens. I'm like, I don't understand.
And then something that, we talked about the insurance industry a lot and what it's going and what it's doing to our real estate industry. So we're going to have an informational, new word by Kristen. Informational insurance meeting with Carrie Ward of Darshaka, who's on here. Thank you, Carrie, and Mark Spivak of Advisors. But Carrie will talk about, what you can do to make sure your house is insurable, what you can get it to, or how to deal with it as a buyer. So I think it's going to be really interesting. We're going to have it at our office May 19th, 6 to 7. We'll actually have some snacks there for you as well. So
it is a ticketed event. So make sure you go to our Facebook page and get a ticket.
Perfect.
So that we have you on there. And then I'm going to say we're good for about 30 minutes. And then anything after the 30-minute marker, we're just kind of silly. I don't know what's going on anymore. But all right. So if you have a property that you are not quite ready to sell, but you would like to not manage a deal with, we are here for you at K&R Property Management. We will be your leasing agent, your accountant. We'll make sure repairs, inspections, and all of that stuff gets taken care of. So call us today at 352-213-6410.
All right. Now, if all this doesn't scare you and you're looking to get your real estate license or join a team or maybe switch over, maybe you're coming to Gainesville, moving into Gainesville like everybody else, and you've already had your real estate license, why don't you give us a call or email join@buysellrebell.com.
And if you can't get enough of Kristen and Rebecca and all the real estate fun at Rabell Realty Group, you can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Google+.
You're so good. And like and subscribe, share our page on YouTube. Thank you. And then also, did you know we have a blog? Yes, I hope you do. And if you don't, you can follow us and read everything, all our tips, information about the local real estate or just local events going on at buysellrebell.com/blog.
And we would like to thank the Fiesta Media for putting on the 83rd Rabell Realty Group podcast.
We're getting there to
and
100.
all the others. I know we're quickly approaching 100. If you would like to have your own podcast, you can contact them at 352-327-5089.
All right. And like we said, thank you very much. And join us next week with Janine Gray. And join us every Monday at 2 p.m. Thank you. Bye. Again, thanks, Dan.